This episode is brought to you by King of Beards. This is my online shop where you can find high quality products that will help you grow a strong, healthy beard that not only looks great, but also will smell great as well. Definitely the people in your life that like to get up and close with you are gonna thank you for this one. These are products that I use personally. The link is below in the video description section, and if you use my coupon code KING, you'll get 15% off on your first order. The first person to believe Prophet Muhammad after he got his revelation from the Quran was his wife Khadija and his close friend Abu Bakr, who is regarded as the successor to Muhammad by Sunni Muslims. And like I mentioned in part 1, shortly after that, Prophet Muhammad began to gather a small following, and he initially encountered no real opposition, but most people in Mecca, they either ignored him or they just mocked him and made fun of him as just being another prophet or wannabe prophet. However, when his message actually started to condemn idol worship as well as polytheism, many of Mecca's tribal leaders began to see the Prophet Muhammad as a real threat. Again, I go more into detail about that in part 1. Now, on top of going against long-standing belief systems that already exist, the condemnation of idol worship had a huge economic consequence for merchants who actually catered to thousands of pilgrims who came to Mecca every single year. Now, of course, this was especially true for the members of Prophet Muhammad's own tribe, the Quraysh, who were guardians of the Kaaba. So sensing this threat, Mecca's merchants as well as their leaders offered the Prophet Muhammad some incentives to abandon his preaching, but he absolutely refused. He says, nope, I'm going to speak what I believe in because this is right, regardless of what you guys have to say. We know that Hajj in particular only happens during the 12th month of the Islamic calendar. So that's name number 1, Hajj. But Muslims, however, they are always welcome to visit the city of Mecca or any of the surrounding holy sites during any other time of the year. But when Muslims perform this Hajj ritual, or if you can call it that, Hajj ritual, more like pilgrimage ritual, during other times of the year, then they call it Umrah. And you can kind of consider this more of like a minor pilgrimage compared to Hajj, the major pilgrimage. So to summarize, when you perform it during Dhul Hajj, it's called Hajj. And when you perform any other time of the year, it is Umrah. Speaking of names, did you know that the people who perform the pilgrimage also go by a name? Those who perform the Hajj are called Hajis, and sometimes these people, they embrace the title of Hajis and they put that in front of their name following their completion of Hajj. This title is recognized highly within the Muslim culture all around the world. For fact number 3, I want to look a little bit at the origins of Mecca, where Hajj is performed. Mecca is a place that was developed after the Prophet Ismail and his mother Hajra, or Hagar, according to the Bible, found the spring of Zamzam water, and that was located in the desert. Now, Hajra was the Prophet Ibrahim's wife, or also Abraham in the Bible, and Hajra ran 7 times back and forth between the hills of Safa and Marwa looking for a drop of water for her and her son. That's when Ismail started scraping the land of the desert with his feet, and then out of nowhere, water started to pour out of the ground. And this is the water that pilgrims drink during Hajj. There's also quite a bit of modernization that has changed how Hajj is done. In 1950, for example, about 100,000 Muslims performed Hajj, but Muslims are also discouraged from taking photos and things like that. But nowadays, with advanced infrastructure and technology, more and more people are able to perform Hajj. The Saudi government also has really made Mecca into a global marketplace, and the sacred mosque has expanded to allow for more people. But this is something that some Muslims have condemned, as it is seen as a step towards over-commercializing Hajj. But either way, with now advanced air traffic and complex systems to organize Hajj, it really helps to facilitate the flow of the Hajj experience. And finally, let's end off with number 1. The building in the center of the Great Mosque is known as the Kaaba, also known as the House of God. Now, it is believed that this house, the Kaaba, was built by the first human being on the planet, Prophet Adam, according to Islam. Then the Kaaba was renovated by the Prophet Ibrahim and his son Ismail. If you don't know already, the Kaaba is a giant cubical structure, and when Muslims come to perform Hajj or Umrah, they go around the house in an anti-clockwise direction 7 times, which is known as tawaf.
So this next fact actually has to do with the cuisine in the city of Mecca. As in other Arab cities, kabsa, which is a spiced dish of rice and meat, is the most traditional lunch in the city. But the Yemeni mandi, which is a dish of rice and tandoori cooked meat, is also quite popular. Grilled meat dishes such as shawarma, kofta, and kebab are widely sold in Mecca. During Ramadan, fava beans and olive oil and samosas are the most popular dishes and are eaten at dusk. These dishes are almost always found in Lebanese, Syrian, and Turkish restaurants. And the mixture of different ethnicities and nationalities amongst Meccan residents has significantly impacted Mecca's traditional cuisine. The city has been described as one of the most cosmopolitan Islamic cities with international cuisine. Traditionally, during the month of Ramadan, men are provided with mineral water and fruit juice for Muslims breaking their fast at dusk. In the 20th century, many fast food chains opened franchises in Mecca, catering to locals and pilgrims alike. Exotic foods such as fruits from India and Japan are even often brought by the pilgrims as well. Another surprising fact that most people don't know about Mecca is that there are many public and private schools for both girls and boys, but the city only has one university. Formal education started to be developed in the late Ottoman period, continuing slowly into and Hashemite times. The first major attempt to improve the situation was made by a Jeddah merchant known as Muhammad al-Zainal Rida, who founded the Madrasat al-Falih in Mecca in 1911 that cost £400,000. As of 2005, there were 532 public and private schools for males and another 681 public and private schools for female students. The medium of instruction in both public and private schools is Arabic, with emphasis on English as a second language. But some private schools founded by foreign entities such as international schools use the English language for the medium of instruction. For higher education, the city only has one university, as I mentioned, known as al-Qura University, which was established in 1949 as a college and became a public university in 1979 as well. Next up on the list at number 3 is the fact that in 2010, the Mecca area became an important site for paleontology with respect to primate evolution with the discovery of a Sirenius fossil. Sirenius is considered to be a primate closely related to the common ancestor of the old world monkeys and apes. The fossil habitat near what is now known as the Red Sea in western Saudi Arabia was a damp forest area between 28 million and 29 million years ago. The city of Mecca also happens to be home to the Well of Zamzam, which is a well located in the Masjid of Haram, 20 meters east of the Kaaba. According to Islam, it is a miraculously generated source of water from God, which sprang thousands of years ago when Ibrahim's son Ismail was left with his mother Hajar in the desert, where he was thirsty and kept crying. The name of the well comes from the phrase Zomi Zomi, meaning stop flowing, a command repeated by Hajar during her attempt to contain the spring water. Millions of pilgrims visit the well each year while performing the Hajj or Umrah pilgrimages in order to drink its water. Another holy place that Mecca is home to is known as Jabal al-Nur, which is a mountain near Mecca in the Hijazi region. The mountain houses the grotto or cave of Hira, which holds tremendous significance for Muslims throughout the world, as the Islamic Nabi Prophet Muhammad is said to have spent a great deal of time in this cave meditating, and it is widely believed that it was here that he received his first revelation, which consisted of the first 5 ayats of Surah Al-Alaq from the angel Jibreel. The mountain itself is barely 640 meters. Nonetheless, 1 to 2 hours are needed to make the strenuous hike to the cave. There are 1,750 steps to take to the top, which can take anywhere between 25 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes. Last but certainly not least on the list is the fact that non-Muslims are actually prohibited from entering the city of Mecca. Mecca was long ruled by Muhammad's descendants, the Sharifs acting either as independent rulers or as vassals to larger polities. It was conquered by Ibn Saud in 1925. Non-Muslims may not enter or travel through Mecca, and attempting to enter Mecca as a non-Muslim can actually result in penalties such as a fine. Being in Mecca as a non-Muslim can also result in deportation. In the city of Medina, however, both Muslims and non-Muslims are allowed in.
After the conflict with Mecca was finally settled, the Prophet Muhammad took his first true Islamic pilgrimage to the city of Mecca in March of 1632. And that's where he delivered his final sermon at Mount Arafat. And finally, when he returned to Medina, his wife's home, he became really sick for several days, and he passed away on June 8th, 632 at the age of 62 years old. And then he was buried at Al-Masjid An-Nabawi, which is the Mosque of the Prophet, one of the first mosques that was built by the Prophet Muhammad in the city of Medina. So after 23 years of prophethood, when the Prophet Muhammad passed away, Islam spread to other places too because of the efforts of his caliphs. Now, the revelations that the Prophet Muhammad received were compiled in the Quran also after his passing away. And the last thing I want to share about the Prophet Muhammad is that according to the 6th edition of the Columbia Encyclopedia back in the year 2000, the name Muhammad was probably the most common given name in the entire world. And that includes all of the variations of Muhammad. Now, it's estimated that more than 150 million men and boys in the entire world have the name Muhammad, and this is due to the relationship to the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Also, recently in 2019, for the first time, the name Muhammad is on the top 10 most popular baby names for boys in the United States. And that was according to the website Baby Center. So there's a whole lot of Muhammadness happening in the world. People just love the name. Also, it just goes to show you how much Muslims honor and revere the Prophet Muhammad.